For now, let's shift our focus to Ukraine. It has been dealt another blow by Russia, this time not on the battlefield, but on the negotiating table. I'm talking about the Black Sea grain deal. It has collapsed. Russia has pulled out of it, a move that could threaten food prices and cause food insecurity all over the world. How exactly? In the next 3 minutes, we shall discuss. Let's start by understanding the story first. What exactly was the Black Sea grain deal? Well, it was a grain initiative negotiated in July 2022 between Turkey, the UN and Russia. The aim was to ensure that grain from Ukraine could leave its southern ports, and the deal was necessary because remember, Ukraine, as you know, the bread basket of the world. It supplies wheat and agricultural products to countries across Europe, Asia and Africa. But since the war started, all of this went for a toss. The grain could not be exported in the required quantities anymore due to Russia's blockade in the Black Sea. And this is when Turkey stepped in, as it oversees much of the maritime traffic in the Bosphorus. It tried bringing the warring sides to the negotiating table. So what did the deal promise? A host of things. The biggest one was allowing commercial food and fertilizer, including ammonia exports, from 3 key Ukrainian ports in the Black Sea: Odessa, Chernomorsk and Pivdenil. Besides this, a separate deal was signed to minimize the impact of sanctions on the export of Russian food and fertilizer. Both these deals were subject to 4 and then 2 monthly reviews. Next question. Were these agreements implemented? Yes, they were to some extent. Reports say around 33 million tons of grain left Ukraine's ports after the war. A huge chunk of this went to low and middle income countries. So in a way, Russia and Ukraine cooperated to this end. What started to go wrong? Well, Western media reports say that Russia stopped following the agreement. It started to slow down inspections. This led to a fall in daily exports. Reports also say that in March this year, there was a 29% decrease in food exports and a 66% decrease in May as well. Now, if this is true, why would Russia do this? Reports say that Russia felt that certain parts of the deal were unfair, especially the ones allowing for greater Russian agricultural exports. And this was not being honored by the West. It says that sanctions on Russian goods exports have not been lifted, clearly enough. It also wanted sanctions lifted on its main agricultural bank. Now, these are just a few demands. Other demands include the resumption of supplies of agricultural machinery and parts. A very important question: who is to blame for all this? Well, the answer depends on whom you ask. The West claims that Putin thought the deal was not worth preserving since it was allowing Ukrainian coffers and farmers to benefit from its grain exports. The Kremlin says that it was the West that tried to fool it through unnecessary clauses in all the deals, and this has led to the deal being scrapped. Russia has gone to the extent of accusing Ukraine for using the Black Sea grain corridor for terror attacks. Listen in.
И вы знаете, что было? Было как минимум несколько террористических актов.
Do you know what happened? There were at least several terrorist attacks because we had a humanitarian sea corridor from Istanbul to, say, Odessa, Chernomorsk, Yuzhny, along which vessels could and should have been sailing, and which was not, let's say, seeing any military impact from the outside. But as we know, and we have already said it, it was being used for the organization of terrorist attacks. It was the Crimean Bridge, twice already. It was Sevastopol, you remember, October last year. So there were a lot of factors coming together to cancel the grain deal.
Это был Севастополь, помните, октябрь прошлого года.
The question is, what happens next? Russia's defense ministry has in effect said that any ship leaving a Ukrainian port will be a legitimate military target. Turkey, which is a NATO member, could threaten to confront Russia by guiding the grain exports out of the ports without Russian permission. But you see, that is a high-risk step. Putin has hinted that he's willing to go back into the deal if his demands are met. But Russia's actions hint otherwise. Look at these visuals. Immediately after the deal was scrapped, Russian missiles hit grain terminals at an agricultural enterprise in the Odessa region. This was the 4th successive night of airstrikes on southern Ukraine. These strikes have been particularly intense. The mayor of Odessa says that the city had not recalled such a scale of attack since the beginning of the invasion. The president of Ukraine has reiterated this. He says that Russia has launched nearly 70 missiles so far this week. Listen in.
In just 4 days of the week since Monday, Russian terrorists have already used almost 70 missiles of various types. Almost 90 Iranian-made missiles against our state, largely against Odessa and Odessa region, Mykolaiv, our other southern cities and communities.
So what is Russia planning? Will it go back to the deal? Well, the bombing of Odessa doesn't seem to suggest so, at least not right now. We'll of course continue to track this story. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.